Dear students, greetings of the day. So welcome you all to the course that is Fabric Manufacturing Technology. In the last session, we have discussed about the sizing objectives. What is exactly the warp sizing? What are the major objectives of warp sizing? And how the sizing process will help to in the next process that is called as weaving technology. So the sizing process and their objectives we have discussed in the last session. Here today we are going to discuss about the size ingredients. So before going to the size ingredients part, we will discuss again a recall of the objectives of sizing. So the first objective of warp sizing is to improve the weavability of the yarn and to improve the abrasion resistance of the yarn and make the yarn withstand the stress and strains in the weaving process. And the next objective is to lay the protruding fibers on the surface of the yarn. And the next objective is to form a thin, homogeneous and uniform film coating on the top of the yarn surface. Then to give a sufficient cover, feel and appearance to the sized yarn meant for the grey cloth, and to add the extra weight also. So if you want more weight, so we can add some size ingredients to improve the weight of your end product, that is fabric. Okay, to improve the warp weight also, if you want, you can add some size ingredients so that you can improve the weight of the warp sheet. So these are the basic objectives of the sizing process. And we have seen in the last session like what are the sizing materials we are using in the sizing to prepare the size paste. So there are like the size ingredients are classified into two categories. One is called as the primary ingredients and the second one is called as secondary ingredients. So in the primary ingredients, as we already discussed in the last session, so the adhesives, softness and lubricants and antiseptics are the primary ingredients, and under the secondary ingredients we have deliquescents, weighing agents, bluing and brightening agents, antistatic agents, antifoaming agents, wetting agents. So all these are comes under the category of secondary ingredients used in the size based preparation process. Okay, now we will discuss one by one. Okay, like what are the adhesive, what is the function of the adhesive, and what are the materials particularly we are using for the adhesives, or all the ingredients we are going to discuss in the further slides. So let us start the first and the primary ingredients, that is adhesive. So you can see here, so they are also called as film forming agents or binders. So these adhesives are also called as film forming agents or binders. Okay. So what is the function of this adhesive is, it should be capable of forming a thin, homogeneous and continuous film on the top of the yarn surface, and it should be also cement, nothing but bind the fibers which are present in the yarn structure, inside the yarn structure, to improve or to get better tensile strength to the yarn. Better tensile strength to the yarn. So the adhesives, what it will do, for example, if there is a yarn, so if you apply the size paste into the yarn, then what is happening is, the size paste is coated on the top of the yarn surface, as well as in the yarn we have n number of fibers, like 40 to 1000 number of fibers, like 100 or 200 number of fibers which are present in the yarn cross section. So the fiber to fiber there is a small gap, hence if you twist the fibers to impart the tensile strength, so in the same manner, like the same process, what is happening is, though when the size paste is applying, so the size paste is going to be coated on the top of the yarn surface, as well as the size paste is going to penetrate inside the yarn structure or in between the fibers. So that what will happen, the size paste, if it is penetrated inside the yarn structure, so the size paste is going to be adhere or cement in between the fibers, so that the more tensile property is going to be imparted by the application of these adhesives. So these are the major functions, and also it is forming a coating which protects the yarn abrasion. Or so when the abrasion is happening, yarn to yarn or yarn to metal abrasion in the weaving process or in the next processes, so the yarn is going to be withstand by this protective film or protective coating on the surface of the yarn. Okay, so these are the functions, and let us see what are the materials called as adhesives. Okay, so the adhesives nothing but the starch and starch products. So you can see that the starch and starch products examples are maize starch, tapioca starch, potato starch, sago starch, wheat starch, thin boiling starch. So these are the starches and starch products will be used for as a adhesives in the size paste preparation process. And once again I am telling, the primary ingredients nothing but these ingredients should be present in the size paste. Otherwise what will happen? If there is no adhesive, there is no binding property to the yarn, or there is no binding property in between the fibers. So if there is no binding property or there is no binding property or coating on the yarn surface, then obviously this will not be present in the yarns or on the top of the yarn surface. So we don't get any effect in the further process. That is why the adhesive is the primary ingredient in the size paste preparation process. And you can see that there are natural materials other than the starches, like tamarind kernel powder, like tamarind kernels are there, right? So the tamarind kernel powder is one of the example in the natural material. And along with that, like tamarind kernel powder as well as low viscosity tamarind kernel powders also there. LTKP we can call. Okay. And glues, gelatins, casins, gum arabic, gum tragacanth, and gum karakai, okay, and gum karaya, and bean gums. So these are the natural products which are available as an adhesive material in the for the preparation of the size paste. Okay, these are the few examples under the category of natural materials other than the starches. Okay, and cellulosic derivatives also used in this case, and the cellulose derivatives are starch ethers, starch esters, and carboxymethyl cellulose powders. Okay, so these are the comes under the cellulosic derivatives. And synthetic adhesives are also we are using into the specific application, so to sustain the yarn or to withstand the yarn under any circumstance in the further steps. So synthetic adhesives are examples you can see here: polyvinyl alcohol and acrylic polymers and vinyl polymers, styrene compounds are going to be used as a synthetic adhesives. So generally the synthetic adhesives are like will create some pollution. So most of the MNC companies, they are avoiding to use the synthetic adhesives, but some cases, a few cases, depends upon the type of material we are using. So it is necessary to use synthetic adhesives to sustain the or to withstand in the further process. Okay, so these are the adhesive materials and adhesive examples materials we are using for the preparation of size paste. And the second category under primary ingredients are, the second one is softness and lubricants. What is exactly the softness and lubricants are? So it is based on oils, fats and waxes, and the major function of these softeners or lubricants are, it serves to reduce the friction between the yarn to yarn or yarn to metal. So it serves to reduce the friction and give a smooth surface to the starch film. Okay, so while using the softeners and lubricant, it will give a smooth surface to the starch film, and it also acts as a softening agent. Okay, so to reduce the friction of yarn to yarn or yarn to metal, so we are using the softeners and lubricants. So you can see along with this function we have using these softeners and lubricants to impart the flexibility and smoothness to the warp threads. Okay, so to impart the flexibility and smoothness to the warp threads. And if you apply too much softeners in the size mixture, will reduce the abrasion resistance of size yarn. Okay, so too much softener in the size mixture will reduce the abrasion resistance of the size yarn. That is why an optimum level of usage of softeners and lubricants should be there in the size paste preparation process. Then let us see what are the materials we are using as a softeners and lubricants are. So you can see here mutton tallow, and this is the best and widely used material in the MNC companies and in the several industries. Okay, and there are vegetable tallow, soap, stearic acid emulsions, and sulfated oils and fats, and mineral oils, specifically like a paraffin wax, is going to be used as a lubricant and the softeners in the size paste preparation process. And we will see that the third one in the primary ingredients, that is very important, antiseptics is the one of the major adhesive or not adhesive. Antiseptics are very important and major ingredient in the size paste preparation, because you can see the function of these antiseptic is to prevent the mildew formation in the yarn. So for example, what is this and how this mildew is going to be affected is, because we are using adhesives, you can observe that the material used as an adhesives are like starch, like maize, tapioca, potato. So these are natural products. So if you use this and if you apply into the yarn, then what will happen? It is very easy to attack by the mildew or bacteria. Okay, so antiseptics will prevent the mildewing in the yarn. So the functional growth or fungus growth is going to be resisted by using these antiseptics. And what are the materials of these antiseptics are like zinc chloride, copper sulfate, zinc sulfate, sodium silicofluoride, and boric acid, phenols. So these are the materials we are using as an antiseptic to control or to prevent the mildewing, which is a fungus growth. Okay, so these are the materials used as an antiseptics. Now we will move on to the secondary ingredients part. Now the first secondary ingredient is deliquescents. So over dried cotton yarn becomes weak, brittle and harsh. So after application of the size paste, what is happening is, after application of the size paste, the yarn is going to be dried. Nothing but after the sizing application, the yarn is going for the drying. Then after drying, the beam is going to be kept on the floor, or it is going to be taken into the weaving machine after 1 day or 2 days, like that. So after the size application, there is a drying process. If the drying is happened after drying, over drying, if it is occurred, then the yarn becomes weak and the size paste become brittle, and after brittle, if the yarn if the yarn is, the size film is brittle, so yarn feels like harsh. Okay. So also the film may be brittle and fall off during the weaving process. Like if the yarn is coated with size ingredient and if it is brittle after the yarn is bent or after movement of the yarn, if the size film on the top of the yarn surface, if it is brittle, then what will happen after brittling? So because of the yarn to yarn abrasion or yarn to metal abrasion in the weaving process, what will happen? This brittled or the brittle size film is going to be fall down on the weaving elements. Okay, in the during the weaving process. So the deliquescents are going to be used to prevent all these things. Okay, so the assumption was that hygroscopic substances absorbs moisture from the atmosphere and helps the yarn to regain its flexibility and strength. So now deliquescents are going to be act as a like a we are assuming that the hygroscopic substances can absorb the moisture from the atmosphere and it helps to the yarn become wet or wet nothing but moisture and the flexibility, so that the tensile property can be controlled or the yarn should not be becoming weak. This is an assumption only. Okay, and most of the cases these deliquescents are going to be used to avoid all these things. Okay, and the materials specifically we are using as a deliquescents are, like you can see here, magnesium chloride, calcium chloride and zinc chloride. Okay, so out of the materials you can use any one thing. So I am giving the examples of each and every ingredient category. Okay, and glycerol also one of the deliquescent. Okay, and ethynyl glycol also one of the deliquescent. So these are the materials of the deliquescent. And we can move on to the next ingredient, that is weighing agents. Why the weighing agents are using? Because if you want the warp sheet become more weight, then in that case what we are doing is we are applying some size ingredients to improve the weight of the warp sheet, and as well as after weaving the fabric weight compared to like with using the weighing agents and without using the weighing agent. If you compare two fabrics with using the weighing agents, you can get the more weight compared to without using the weighing agents in the size paste. So the weighing agents function is, the only purpose is to add these to the increase the weight of the yarn and to give a full feel to the cloth woven from it. So nothing but to just improve the weight of the fabric. And what are the materials we are using as a weighing agents are like china clay, gypsum, barium sulfate, French chalk. So these are the few materials I have given here for the as an example of weighing agents. Okay, then we will move on to the next ingredient, that is bluing and brightening agents. These bluing and brightening agents are used for cloths which are to be sold in the grey state. Nothing but generally, for example, so some of the companies, they will produce the grey cloth and they will sell the grey cloth in the market. So in that case, so whenever you are going to purchase the fabric and you can see that the fabric quality in terms of color and few things, right? So if you want to purchase a grey cloth, so the customers or buyers will see that the cloth appearance, whether it is like a whitish color or whitish or a greyish color. So what is the quality of the fabric? So it will attract, if you add bluing and brightening agents, it will attract the persons who are purchasing in the market can be going to purchase or towards the focus of bluing and brightening agents. So that is why we are using bluing and brightening agents to give the look or the brightening effect to the fabric so that it can be sold in the market very easily. Okay, so the materials which we are using as a bluing and brightening agents are ultramarine blue. We are using dyes. Some of the dyes also can be used blue color dyes. Okay, So also can be used, and aniline colors also can be used. So the bluing and brightening agents we are using as an ultramarine blue. Okay. So that what will happen, the color, the grayish color can become like a bluish, and somehow look of the appearance of the fabric is going to be changed after using the bluing and brightening agents. Okay. So only the purpose, if you want to purchase or if you want to sell your fabric as a gray state, then we are going to use the bluing and brightening agent. Or else if you have MNC company which is like a weaving process and chemical processing, and your end product is a finished fabric, in that case it is not required, because after adding the bluing and brightening agents, again in the next process, that is desizing process, after weaving we have a desizing process, right? So all the size ingredients are going to be removed in the desizing process. So waste of time and waste of money only. Though that is why if we have a continuous process, weaving and chemical processing, your end product is finished fabric, in that case you people are going to not using any kind of bluing or brightening agents. Okay. So only if you want to sell your product as a gray cloth, in that case you are going to use bluing and brightening agents to attract the people. Then anti-static agents. Anti-static agents. So it prevents the accumulation of static charges on the yarn. So these are very important in the case of sizing of hydrophobic fibers like cellulose acetate and synthetics. Okay. So you can see that the static charges is very trouble or very irritating thing in the many ways. Like you can see here, the static charged cloth pick up more dirt. So for example, in the weaving industry, now in the weaving industry there are so much of fluff and fly generation or dust. So if the fabric or if the yarn is having a static charge generation, then what will happen? This will attract the dirt and lint from the atmosphere, and it is going to be settled on the yarn. So we don't require that. Okay, if the dirt is applied, then it is first thing you need to remove it in the next process. And when you are selling your product as a grey cloth, in that case your fabric is going to become like looks like a dirty. Okay, so that is why we need to add or we need to use anti-static agents to avoid all these things. So gives the trouble during the winding and unwinding from the rollers also. Okay, so it will attract to the neighboring ends and it will not be easily going to unwind or wind. So this is also going to be happen in the process. And cloth does not fold properly in the bins. And the second one is, the next one is soaps and sulfated oils and organic salts of alkanes, etc. and sorbitols. These are the materials we are using as an anti-static agents to avoid all the above things. Okay, to avoid these things, we are using the anti-static agents. These are the few materials I have given here. And there is an wetting agents. There is a wetting agents. Now these are required only in the sizing of water repellent fiber warps, which are difficult to be wetted by aqueous solutions of adhesives. So by water repellent fibers or water repellent yarns, we are going to use a wetting agents, okay, so that the yarn become wet. After the size application also it will not over dried. Okay, so the material used for this wetting agent as like a turkey red oil, TRO. Okay, and there is a next and final thing, that is anti-foaming agent. Okay, what is exactly the anti-foaming agent is? While in the sizing process, what is happening is the sizing process, there are rollers, right? So there is a trough. In the trough we have size paste, liquor. Okay. So if you pass the warp sheet through the rollers and inside of the size paste, what will happen? Because of the speed, because of the roller rotation, what will happen? The size paste is going to create a foam, air bubbles in the size paste. That is foam. So this foam creation can be happened in the size trough or sew box. So because of the roller rotations, as well as the next thing is, why the foaming is going to happen? Because we are using some of the softness and lubricants as a soaps and few things, right? So if we are using this softening and lubricants, so because of these lubricants, the foam generation can be occur. So to overcome that, what we are doing is we are using an anti-foaming agent. Okay. So these anti-foaming agents are like the materials I have given here: amyl alcohol, turpentine, pine oils, etc. So these are the materials we are using to avoid the foam generation in the sew box. So that if the foam generation is happened, what will happen? Why the foam generation should be avoided? Because if the foam is generated, you cannot get an idea what is the amount of size paste present in the trough, first thing. Then because of this foam, the foam, if it is applied on the fabric, and it will looks like a size paste is applied, but ununiform application of size paste will be there in the sizing process. That is why we need to have a anti-foaming agent to avoid the foam generation in the sew box. We are using this material. Okay, so one of the material we are going to use as an anti-foaming agent. So this is a complete session where we are discussed about what are the sizing materials or size materials used to prepare the size paste for the sizing of yarns. So the size materials, whatever the primary ingredients and secondary ingredients we are talking, so out of these sizing ingredients, a few ingredients are going to be used and selected and used. So the selection of size ingredients and the percentage of size ingredients in the size paste mixture is going to be varied, depends upon the type of yarn, depends upon the count of yarn, depends upon the type of fiber. Okay, so there are so many parameters to select the size ingredients in the size paste preparation process. Okay, so in the next sessions we will discuss what is and how we are going to prepare the size paste and what are the steps involved in the preparation of size paste, and along with that we will see for different yarns what are the size recipe for different type of yarns or different type of fibers, what is the recipe of size or size paste is. So till then, thanks for listening. Bye.